We're taking a deep dive at the year 1988 and all the magazines to hit the newsstands in that year of 1988. Before I do, let me just say thanks to each and every one of you guys who've been reaching out and messaging me and leaving comments, asking if I'm okay. You haven't seen me in a while. And yeah, it's been a while. It's been almost 6 or so months. I've been, out of state, helping my mom as much as I can. My pop's been in really bad shape, and things weren't really going too well for him, and he's with hospice care now, so just trying to keep things comfortable for him as much as we can. So I will be back to making a lot more videos soon, and wanted to do this one of you guys requested, 1988. And like I said, you know how we do it. We go from January 88 all the way through to the end of December with every magazine that hits the newsstand. There's a few issues missing out of here. I couldn't find all my wrestling eye issues for some damn reason. They're probably mixed in with some other boxing shit. But you'll see all the, the main power players. But there's a few issues of wrestling eye, but not all of them. Kicking right out of the gate, Hulk Hogan, January 1988. Ronnie Garvin here captures the title from Nature Boy Ric Flair in a shocking moment. No one seen that coming, especially, the fans were like, what, Ronnie Garvin? What a odd choice of champion. Road Warriors, on the January issue of The Wrestler, Road Warriors will turn bad in 1988, and yes, they certainly do. Wayne Ferris gets the title in the becoming the Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship. Ronnie Garvin captures the world title. The picture should be reversed, actually. Ronnie Garvin winning the NWA title was more news than good old Wayne. Wayne coming up from Memphis, dyeing his hair black, got rid of the blonde, ditches his tag team partner Moondog Spot, and comes to the Northeast and captures gold. Ted DiBiase, January of 1988. Not really a fan. You guys know how I feel. Upper 80s were not my thing, especially at this point. The wrestling was okay. It was just the magazines have changed. They're going to go through some major changes. Gone will be covers like this where just two guys wrestling. You're going to see a lot of splattered faces in a collage, like the 16 magazine. But, it was not for me, not for many of us. A lot of us were annoyed at the later years. 88 was still okay. A couple of them were all right, but, the following years, next couple of years to come, they really went to shit and just totally lost my interest. The Islanders, Rick Martel, this is the Tonga Kid getting the front cover of Ringside Wrestling. Superstar Graham takes the cover of Wrestling Power, and one of Superstar's last covers that we'll see of him, maybe one more, I believe, after this. But I tell the story with this issue about him in the Bronx losing to Johnny Rodz. Superstar was supposed to go over, and the hot night for the Puerto Rican crowd. And Superstar says, if I want to get out of here alive, you better put me over tonight. You better go over tonight, because I'm not going to make it out of here. And Johnny gets the win over Superstar. Pretty cool. Wrestling's main event, January's issue, Hogan partnering up with Macho Man, becoming the Mega Powers, I believe they called it. Road Warriors in the four corner here on their way to becoming the NWA champions. I believe another year or so, 6 or 8 months from now, they would capture the belts. Excuse me. Double action, Barry Windham taking on Ric Flair in the January's issue of 88. Also Steamboat and Savage War covered here in this issue. Celebrity Wrestling, which another magazine that wasn't around for very long, another one just popped up for the popularity. There's a lot of different publications in 88, 89. They really were capitalizing on the wrestling craze, and the magazines were selling really hot at this point. As many as you could put out, people were grabbing. And January of 88, good looking shot of Luger taking on Nikita Koloff. Luger now moving up from the Florida territory and joining the Crockett ranks, soon to be Horsemen and whatnot. Wrestling Insider. Great magazine. Actually, my favorite one of all the smaller independent magazines. This covers the Great American Bash perfectly. The 87 Bash, Superstar Graham. They covered a lot of Graham, too. Official Insider. Let's see. There was several other ones that were with the same company here. They were only out, I think, 5 or 6 issues. We cover it on another video, but really good. Probably the best one for the independent. I say independent, non-Stanley Weston, George Napolitano magazines. Superstar Wrestlers got the Road Warriors on the cover January of '88. Good looking shot of the Warriors. Macho Man, Savage on the cover flexing here. Good looking shot of Macho. At this point, now I was a big fan of Macho. I just, as you guys know, turned off the WWF after Mania 3. Got to miss a lot of Savage's matches, his title matches when he wins the title. I didn't see all that stuff until years later, just from my hatred for the company and anybody involved in it. But Savage, looking good, muscling up. I mean, as much muscles as a 3cc syringe can fill, I guess. I liked him much better when he was a little bit more leaner and faster. He was a little bit too blown up for a little while, but you guys know how much I love Savage. One of my favorite wrestlers. But I think, just like I said, he looked, monstrous, but I think carried it better being skinnier. Horrible magazine cover, February '88. Looking up Flair's nostrils here. Flair admits it wants nothing to do with the NWA. He's nothing without the NWA belt. Big changes on the way soon for Dusty Rhodes, and soon to be heading to the World Wrestling Federation, and still got a few more months left in his NWA run, but bad things to come for the Dream. NWA Pro Digest. This magazine was not so much short-lived, but this style of the magazine was. I got another one here. No, this was issue number 1. It came out in December, but it was like for January. So January, December, January, then the next one will be March, February, March. So it was kind of like a buy thing. But this was given out as a program at the stadium as it initially kicked off. This was one for the Philly Civic Center, Flair taking on Sting for the title December 26th. But this is the second issue. It's got Luger on the cover. And this is also another one. It was a program that was given out. And this is Baltimore. And Michael Hayes takes on Flair here in Baltimore. This goes maybe one more issue like this. I can't remember. Then it goes to like a smaller, like comic book size. I'll show you that when we get to December. One of the best magazines for material, man. I mean, it wasn't widely produced, and it was mostly like a mail-in later on when it stopped. There wasn't many subscribers, but it really got the scoop. It was small and to the point. I really like those Pro Wrestling Digest issues. They had great information in those that the other ones weren't giving you. Savage and Elizabeth get the PWI cover. Ronnie Garvin gets the pin-up as the new world champion in PWI's issue, February 1988. Horrible shot of Hogan here, ridiculous looking with his ballbuster bathing suit and the shit smirk he has on his face. Rather have had Missy Hyatt taking the cover than him. Another shot with Luger and Nikita, kind of reminiscent of the other issue. More importantly here is a good look at the Road Warriors, who were the All Japan Heavyweight Tag Team Champions here. A lot of people said, they didn't get the NWA titles till late, blah, blah. And it's true. They didn't get it for a long time. But they were back and forth to Japan defending the All Japan Championship belts. And there's a rare look at them on the cover of American magazine anyway. Dusty taking on Lex Luger, who's moved up, like I said, from Florida, becomes part of the Crockett pack, and going after the U.S. title. Dusty and Lex battle it out all the way up into the Bash. Sting makes his first cover on a magazine cover, and of course he's now a babyface, turning on Eddie Gilbert in the last dying days of the UWF before Crockett took over the UWF. And man, they could have did so much more with that if they just gave it a fair shake instead of just coming out having squash matches with the UWF guys. That could have been like a cool angle. It could have been like an NWO thing, us versus them, and they just basically swallowed up the belts, spit them out the other side, and pretended like they never existed and steamrolled it when there was some decent guys there that they could have played with. I know the economy was rough for the guys in the South and Watts' territory, but great wrestling town, man, for through Texas, New Orleans, Alabama, Oklahoma. I mean, Missouri. All fans were digging it, and it was popular there. It's just a shame that it didn't continue on and try to work. Ronnie Garvin gets the main cover, NWA's world champion, on the main event issue of February, and Hogan and Savage, turmoil is in the air for the two, soon to be, just a couple of months away. Here are the bloodiest match. Macho Man now gets a good bloody shot on the corner. Blood is just about all but extinct at this point, not only in the magazines but in wrestling in general, especially when Crockett's sells to Ted Turner, and it became more of the cartoon classics with the ridiculous gimmicks and everything else. But the blood went with it, and also the magazines too. Garvin taking on Flair again for the world title, and Dr. Death with the UWF here. One of the last shots we're going to see of the UWF champs. That'll soon, like I said, be swallowed up by Crockett and the NWA. Good pinup here of Curt Hennig when he won the AWA Heavyweight Championship belt, and that is covered in this issue. Ronnie Garvin, again, now gets a solo cover as world champ, and good-looking shot of Ronnie. Say what you want about Ronnie. I mean, guys like, oh, he shouldn't have been champ. I mean, I agree. I mean, it was a shocking turn. It really should have been, like Barry Windham or somebody. Barry really got, fucking screwed. I mean, I know he would get the NWA title later on. He would beat the Great Muta for it. Even though it was mostly WCW, it was still NWA affiliated. They tried bringing it back. Masahiro Chono, they tried reviving it in Japan. Chono was the first, I guess, since the WCW takeover as the NWA champion with the big gold. Muta had gotten it, and then Windham got it. Flair gets it back from Windham, and then that's where the NWA affiliate officially splits. So there was still NWA involvement. They were still lingering on, but WCW says, we really don't need to be paying all this money for the NWA name and lineage. We're just going to make our own, and that's what they did. But Ronnie, wasn't really my ideal pick of a champion either. But, it was a shake-up. It was unpredictable, and nobody expected it. And taking nothing away from his wrestling ability at all. Hogan, double action, full shot of him posing. Double action, gold belt, ringsider. They loved Hogan. They would plaster him as much as they could. Here's a rare shot of Hercules Hernandez in the WWF coming up from the Florida territory to take on Hogan. Cuts his hair and goes with the shorter hair look, still jacked as ever and looking good. Soon to be headed to Japan after that. He would be teaming up with Scott Norton. They would take the IWGP Tag Team titles, so he'd have a pretty decent run after the WWF. We're also going to take a look at the boxing section here of, we're just going to follow Mike Tyson throughout the year of 1988. I feel this was Tyson's probably his best year ever in his career. He was the most dominant. He was destroying people. He was the first to unify all three world heavyweight boxing championships. Hasn't been done. It was done when there was, two world championships, but no, Tyson would be the first to make all three combined together as the one unified champion of all three boxing titles. And picking on Terrell Biggs here, really threw him a beating. He said the match went 7 rounds. The match took place October 16th. And he said, I wanted to destroy him as long as I could. I didn't want to finish him fast, but a great looking shot here with him with all three world championship belts. Japan has another cover coming up the month later, and sometime, I think April's issue, real close up. We're going to see that in a second. Bam Bam Bigelow comes up from Memphis and makes it to the World Wrestling Federation as a face, and never really took off too well. I mean, he did all right. I mean, he was, had a good run with Lawler in Memphis, managed by Larry Sharp, and didn't really cut it in the World Wrestling Federation. Goes back to Crockett's NWA for a little while. I loved him in the ECW. Thought he was great. Cool guy to talk to. Very friendly dude, man. Hogan with the classic hand on the ear. It's ridiculous. Luger takes on Sting here. Soon to become tag team partners, and they would get the NWA Gold later in the year. Starrcade and Survivor Series gets the cover of Sports Review. Luger and Dusty for the U.S. title in a cage. Ronnie Garvin and Flair. Flair gets the title back here, and Andre with Bobby Heenan. PWI's year in review, year in awards, and Wrestler of the Year, Tag Team of the Year, what bullshit like that. March's issue of 87. Sting turns on his partner Eddie Gilbert, taking on Eddie Gilbert here on the cover of Wrestling World, March of 1988. Bruno and Hogan get the cover of Wrestling Superstars, and comparing the two is ridiculous. You can't compare Bruno to Hogan. Give me a break. Wayne Ferris making a name for himself now as the Honky Tonk Man, taking on Ricky Steamboat as he takes the gold. Oh, sorry about that. And he's on the cover of Wrestling, Ringside Wrestling, here with Steamboat. No longer with the blonde hair, no longer with Moondog Spot as his tag team partner, making a name for himself. And then shortly after his run into the WWF, that would have been it for Mr. Ferris. Billy Jack on a rare cover later on. He was real popular earlier, 84, 85. He dominated the covers for a good 8-9 months in that year, and kind of disappeared, come up through the World Wrestling Federation, and was pretty much a bust. It's a shame. I was always a big fan of Billy Jack. I liked the way he looked. He was jacked up. He looked like he was a tough dude. Could definitely handle himself. It's a shame how things turned out for him, not only in wrestling, but in his own personal life. Now looking at murder charges and shit for his wife. It's just, it's a mess. Another good shot of Ivan Koloff. Not a good shot, but a rarer one, because he kind of disappeared from the magazines for a while, since 86 or so. So it's a couple years since we've seen Ivan. And now with his new nephew at his side as a tag team, Ivan's career was just about finished up magazine-wise. I mean, he would continue on through the ECW and whatnot, and smaller wrestling territories in Georgia later on. But as far as the magazines go, one of his last couple. Hogan on the cover of Double Action. Nothing much happening here. Just some, candid lame shots. Tyson comes to Tokyo, and there's a good-looking shot of Mike on the cover after winning his first title in 87. This is a little bit older of a pick, year and a half or so older, and this is World Boxing again. World Boxing is Inside Wrestling, and the wrestler of Japan. That was their top seller, their top magazine. Another good-looking shot here is Mike now with all three world titles around his waist. And if you've never seen inside, I mean, it's the same. It's all color. There's a few black and whites, but I mean, you get the pull-out posters, of different guys. There's like 3 of them in here, and this is talking about his match coming up at the Tokyo Dome at the Egg with Tough Tony Tubbs. I think there's some training pictures in here. Tyson's working out, and here he's first look in Japan, and just some training and sparring sessions and stuff like that. Great magazine for the boxing in Japan. A lot of color, certainly more than we ever had here. Excuse me. DiBiase in a roundabout way, becomes the World Wrestling Federation champion. Andre winning the title. Andre gets the front cover with the belt. Andre, I mean, if anyone got screwed, it's Andre the Giant. I mean, the guy should have been the world champion. They should have gave it to him, at least let him win it cleanly and then do your thing instead of making the soap opera bullshit out of it. You know, he wins it, he hands it over, he sells it, whatever the hell the stupid shit was. Andre was more than deserving of it. Even if he held it for a day, he should have been recognized as the world champ, especially for all that he's done for the company. And you know, throughout the world, he was loved for years, and it would have been a great angle to have him, you know, battling Hogan as a heel. But of course, the fans were shortchanged of anything that was decent because it's the World Wrestling Federation. Bam Bam Bigelow gets his next cover, taking on Andre the Giant here, and Luger at the bottom winning the World Class World Heavyweight title. World Class now separate from the NWA. They're doing their own thing, and they become independent. They're going to be teaming up with Memphis. They're going to be teaming up with the AWA, and they're trying to have like a 3-promotion joint venture. You know, these things all sound good. You tried it once with Pro Wrestling USA, and, you know, the 2 heads couldn't work. Now you're going to have 3 involved. I thought it may have had a chance with Jarrett involved with Memphis, but, you know, with Vern, you know, you want to kill something, let Vern get his hands on it, I guess. And Garvin taking on Flair in the corner. Garvin loses the title in Starrcade. Flair becomes the champion once again. Gee, no one's seen that coming. Curt Hennig is the AWA heavyweight champion. First cover of him. I think he was on maybe 2, but small pictures like this, nothing, you know, eventful. Andre slamming Hogan, and Luger capturing the U.S. title now that he's NWA Crockett. Luger, again, on the cover of PWI for one of his first PWI covers, if not the first. April of '88, the Lex Appeal, the complete package unwrapped. Macho Man here, very bloodied up with Hogan. Their friendship is about to be spoiled. Sting, a career look ahead. Where will he go? What will he do? Well, he looks at almost another 40 years in front of him with wrestling, you know, 35 or so anyway. Long career for Sting. It's amazing. I would have thought. Looking at Terry Taylor here with the Universal Heavyweight Championship UWF television title, and it's a rare shot of the UWF champ on the cover, first and only time. Terry Taylor will merge with, he would have a match with Nikita Koloff for the TV title, and those 2 titles would merge. Taylor would be losing it, and Crockett would take on the lineage from the UWF into the TV lineage belt. And like I said, they could have did so much more with that. It's a shame that they just spit up the UWF guys and spit them out like that. Hogan, you know, on a pretty shitty cover of Wrestling World. Wrestling Scene now still holding true to the wrestling matches, and got a match with P.S. Hayes and Flair. We just seen the program to that. Whether that was the actual match or not, I don't know, but the one from Baltimore. But here it is making the cover to Wrestling Scene. Rick Rude takes the cover of Wrestling's Main Event, again with Luger and Dusty in the smaller shot in between. Incredible abs on Rick Rude. Always was put together great, man. Bruiser Brody on a bloody pick here on one of his last covers while he's alive, and Wrestling Power. Here's a kind of a unique magazine cover. Tag team champion on the cover with his belts without his partner. It's kind of different. You know, you really don't see that. So maybe one other time you see, I think, Road Warrior Animal on the same publication, Wrestling Eye, by himself with one belt. But here it is again. Good close-up shot of the silver belt and the World Tag Team. Always liked the style of that tag team belt. Always thought that was a great look. Great looking cover. I don't know if it was by accident or not. Not Wrestling Gold Belt. They would put shit out with matches still. And it's a fenced barbed wire. Dr. Death and Dirty Dick Murdoch get the cover in a barbed wire. Macho Man Savage gets the cover of Superstar Wrestlers. Savage can't be stopped. Mike Tyson being compared to the greats, a legend in the making, Mike Tyson. And like I said, I thought 88 was his most dominant year. He just destroyed people, took all 3 world titles, and was just on top of the world before things all fell apart for him the following year. DiBiase on the cover. More importantly, the Powers of Pain taking on the Road Warriors, which I thought was a great tag team feud. And, it is just a couple of guys you threw makeup on and jammed down your throat. The Barbarian has been around just as long as the Road Warriors were with the makeup on. I think it was like late 83, 84. He was down in Puerto Rico with Carlos Colon with that same gimmick, Conga the Barbarian. And I'm not saying he didn't get his inspiration from the Road Warriors. He probably did, but he was one of the original few that started with the makeup and kept it going throughout his career, and made it quite well for himself. Everybody liked the Barbarian at some point. Hogan on the cover. Luger taking on Arn Anderson in a small corner shot here. Hogan's still the people's champion. You know what they say, when you're the people's champion, your career is just about done. Quite the opposite. Hogan was just really getting started when it was looking like it was coming to an end. Road Warrior Hawk taking on Flair in an older picture from Bash 86, but a good shot nonetheless on Sports Review, May of 1987. Andre gets the full cover of PWI on May of 1988, and looking all sad and depressed is Andre. I guess so. I mean, you had the title and now you're getting kicked to the curb. I guess wrestling superstars here with one of their, notorious trademark issues, Magnificent Muscle Men, the wrestlers' sexiest ones, the wrestlers' best champion. That was like their gimmick issues of each year, and it was something that would stay for the next several years. Wrestling Superstars, the quarterly issue, came out 4 times a year. Ringside Wrestling, good-looking shot here during the bunkhouse stampede of the Animal taking on the Barbarian. Not a fan of the photoshopped background. I would rather have seen the dark ring, but it's better than what we're getting from the Weston issues, that's for sure. And like I said, these issues here would stay true to the magazine, to the matches on the magazine. Butch Reed now coming up from the Southern Territories and making it the natural Butch Reed. Of course, you can't come to the WWF unless you have some retarded gimmick to go along with it. You just can't be yourself, and you just can't, showcase and make a name for yourself. We have to tell you who you are, what you're going to look like, who you're going to be. We're going to change this and that, and that was just such a turn off to the fans who were, grow up with the 70s and early 80s wrestling, and to see what was happening to these guys who we loved or hated to love, and come up and make complete assholes of themselves, at the expense of someone's just comic relief for McMahon to have something to laugh at. You can't say there was anything more than the comic what he did to Dusty Rhodes, 3 times world heavyweight champion, and he make him look like a complete idiot. But such as McMahon. Superstar wrestlers, Flair gets the main cover, 5-time world heavyweight champion now. I am untouchable, and pretty much so. Jesse the Body on a rare cover, and no longer as a wrestler, but as a commentator. And Superstar Graham's retirement announced in this issue of Wrestling Eye. Like I said, Wrestling Eye, man, had not so much decent covers, but the material inside was always decent. They always had decent write-ups and interesting stories, and they went to places other magazine companies didn't go to, which is cool. Flair gets a cover of Wrestling Fever, another magazine that would be around for a handful of years, and then just during its popularity, 88 was huge. The magazines, I don't think there was a year that had more publications out than 88 and 89. It was hot, and it was selling everywhere. The Debbie Combs on the cover with Hulk Hogan here, which is kind of odd. I don't think I ever remember Debbie in the WWF. I don't think she ever was. Maybe, I don't know. Florida hanging on to its last dying days here with former NWA champion Dory Funk and Mike Rotundo on the cover of a Lebanese magazine, wrestling magazine from Lebanon. And the fifth annual David Von Erich by David and Mike Von Erich Parade of Champions. There's a program to that night or that afternoon. Kerry wins the WCWA, which was the World Class Wrestling Association World Heavyweight Championship over Iceman King Parsons. And Tatum and Victory take the World Class Tag Team Championships away from the Simpson brothers. And that's a good looking shot of the Von Erichs there. I got some real, I had a bunch of customs made up in the time that I haven't made any videos, man. I got to show you guys some new customs soon, maybe in the next video or something. I got all three Von Erich brothers now custom made. Well, Kevin was released, but Kerry was released too, but it looked like dog shit, and I had an awesome custom made up with him, and also David. Really cool looking shit. I'll show you guys in the next one. Also, like Kevin Sullivan, I had the One Man Gang. Trying to think of who else. I had one made of Billy Jack. A few more that came out really awesome. Not so many, haven't bought too many magazines, because pretty much, I have them all already. A few programs here and there, but I really haven't done shit. Tyson on the cover, May of '88, and looking good, looking jacked here, and ready to take on the world. And is taking on the world. Michael Spinks is waiting in the wings for his crack. Macho Man Savage, Beauty and the Beast here on the cover. Animal here without his makeup on, with a black eye shown here. Rare shot of Animal without his makeup on. The Japanese issues have a few covers with the Warriors without the paint, but not so much in the U.S. Savage takes the World Wrestling Federation title soon, if they didn't already do it. I'm not sure the lag time here. June, I'm going to say no, not yet. Coming up soon after Mania. Kerry Von Erich gets the small bloody corner pick. Sting and Flair get the cover of The Wrestler. June of '88. DiBiase with the World Wrestling Federation Championship belt. Of course, he's no stranger to the Northeast. He, was here in '79, I guess it was. He was the first Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion in the World Wrestling Federation. Only was considered the North American Heavyweight Championship then, before Pat Patterson made claim to the title. He's never really got much credit for his early run in the WWF, and always liked Ted. I like Ted a lot better in UWF Mid South territory. Nothing in the World Wrestling Federation was the least bit watchable for me anyway, as a wrestling fan. I mean, it's different, if you were a part of the the cartoon craze vomit that McMahon spewed out, but DiBiase was a great wrestler, and came from a whole family of great wrestlers. Dusty Rhodes gets the Bunkhouse Stampede winning trophy of the Big Boot. Really small picture here, while you see Hogan here crying in the corner. Another lousy cover for PWI. Wrestling Superstars, June of '88, Lex lashes out and gets a full cover, jacked as all hell on the cover of the next couple magazines here. Luger again on the Wrestling Main Event, also Bam Bam Bigelow. This issue here has a really bloody picture of Tommy Rich when he was independent, running through Georgia. It was no longer the NWA affiliate Georgia, it was just Georgia Championship Wrestling. And here's a really good bloody shot of him in that magazine, where he's never seen him so juiced in all your life. Tommy Rich was one of the best bleeders. Actually, I had a figure of Tommy Rich made too. Hold on, it's right next to me. Not that you really give a shit, but he's a guy who never made it to the figure line. So had one made of Tommy with the NWA gold, says Wildfire on his trunks, and the initials on his boots. And there he is, Tommy Rich. It's a shame. They should have had, shithead figures of him, Austin Idol. A lot of guys missed the boat. So if you want them, you got to have them, make them yourself. And if you know somebody, like I do, and you have enough stupid money to throw away, you can pretty much have whatever you want. Wrestling World, June of '88, and continuing on with the Bunkhouse Stampede match, Arn Anderson is getting popped by Road Warrior Animal. Savage gets the main cover of Wrestling Eye. Ken Patera, rare look at Patera, not since 82 have we seen Ken, now back with black hair, fresh out of prison from the incident with Mr. Saito and himself back in the limelight of wrestling once again for his last little run. This may have been, was this UWF Herb Abrams? No, I think it was still WWF. Him and Billy Jack would team up, and then they would go to UWF for a couple of tapings while Herb had that disaster going for himself, which I actually liked it. I thought it was decent. Hogan on the cover of Double Action. Nothing happening here. Because you can see, these magazines' covers are complete shit. I mean, just give me a break. How many times are you going to have a cover of Hogan with his hand on his ear? You see it enough in the ring. Now we're stuck looking at it on the cover of a magazine. Lebanese Issues got a great looking close-up cover of jacked up Nikita Koloff when he turned face against Tully Blanchard for the TV title. Tyson knocking out Larry Holmes here in the fourth round in January of '88 was the match. Like you said, now we're in June, so you can see how far back the magazines are lagged here. But Larry Holmes, nobody gave him a shot. Larry Holmes was still dangerous. He's coming off of one loss to Michael Spinks, and the guy dominated forever, and was still a dangerous guy, even though he was past his prime. And the guy would continue on and fighting another 4 or 5 years, and also getting more title shots. I mean, the guy went on to have a pretty goddamn good career. Always a fan of Larry Holmes and respect everything that dude's done, even though, he wasn't much of a match for Tyson. And he did shoot his mouth off a lot. He really didn't need to shoot it off like he did, but that's Larry Holmes. Tyson on a weird cover here from the Morning Herald issue from Australia, and good looking shot of him with the World Championship belt. Mike making his name all around the world, throughout Japan, Australia, and they're all hitting the covers of a bunch of different magazines, because that is our world champion. And whether you live here or there, or wherever, he's your champion, not just an American champion. Mike Tyson in a pull-out giant poster, which comes to this poster here. Great looking shot of him chiseled up here. It's just say 22 by 32 fold-out poster. It's a magazine by page, and then you just unflip it like 6 folds, and it's a giant poster. Pretty cool, with Tyson and supposed Tyson's biggest challenge to date is waiting in the wings, undefeated Michael Spinks, and he's going to take on Mike Tyson for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. And however boxing and their politics go, Spinks was the champion, and then he, you strip him of it. This company strips of this guy, that company strips, you're no longer the champion here, and now we're honoring this guy. So whatever political bullshit, and Spinks was no longer the quote-unquote champ. Even though he never lost the title, he's still considered the champion in many people's minds because he never lost. Hence the big match, super bout between Tyson and not one person thought Spinks had a shot at this complete animal, Mike Tyson, and myself included. And like I said before, I was at the fight. I sat right behind Dolph Lundgren, and it was just 91 seconds of slaughter, and shocked everybody. But we're not quite there yet. The hype for this match is still underway. This was the biggest selling event. Has broke all kinds of records for sales, pay-per-view, you name it. It was huge. And oh, Jimi Hendrix is making a way through. What's up, bud? Haven't seen Jimmy in quite a few years. What's up, pal? All right, now get lost. He used to pop through a video every now and then anymore, and he just doesn't give a shit. But this is another special fold out. This is another poster, a giant size poster. The same exact picture here is the poster. And these are rare, hard to find poster pullouts from KO magazine. KO was the equivalent of PWI for boxing. Here is my program. It has seen better days. But June 27th, 1988, Trump Plaza for the hype. This is a huge, thick program, man. Jesus, that must be 100 and some pages in there. It's quite a bit for a program. Say it isn't so. The fabulous Freebirds and the Von Erichs are friends. Never thought you'd see the day. Kerry Von Erich chugging the milk and Michael Hayes chugging the Jack on the cover. Cool looking cover, I gotta say. It's a little, totally different than you would normally see on the cover. Hogan, 88, rule breaker. Not yet. By 98 he would be. And what a great decision that was. Hogan, again, another uneventful cover. Macho Man Randy Savage captures the WWF World Title, and good for Savage. And like I said, it was some years later before I even watched the match, because I just totally disliked anybody in the WWF or who wrestled for them. So if you were in the WWF, or you were if any match from them I wanted nothing to do with it, so much it turned my stomach. And it's a shame, because I missed out on a lot of cool shit until later on. I didn't get to see it, but Savage was one of the regrets. Mach here on the cover of WWF magazine with the belt. Of course, WWF magazine is not a wrestling magazine. It's it's just a bullshit advertisement for the WWF company, and there's really nothing but bullshit in the magazine. So, of course, I have a handful, and it's only because I like the cover, or I like the who's on the cover, and it was early on. I think this is like one of the few. I don't think I have anything in 80, 89 or 90, nothing like that. But Savage on the cover, awesome looking shot of him, still with the trunks, the Randy Poffo look, the headband, before he would get all decked out in that cartoon gimmick that would be spewed all over the WWF soon, with just the turnoff for guys who grew up with wrestling and didn't want to see this kind of wrestling. One of my favorite shots of Savage right here. Wasn't expecting the shot, looking the other way, just captured the colors, the belt so great, it looks fantastic on him. One of my favorite shot of Savage on any cover. Wrestling Spotlight. I don't know what these magazines are. It says first issue. Like I said, I have no interest in these whatsoever, and that goes for the next couple with the superstars. I just have them because Macho, and I think these are the only couple issues that I have. I know I don't have any other ones, but really can't tell you much about them. And like I said, they weren't wrestling magazines. It was just a company magazine, so it doesn't really count as a wrestling magazine. As in a sport, because it's just one company's bullshit. Pro Wrestling Illustrated, July of 1988, another, meaningless cover that goes nowhere. And now at least here, Crockett Cup, Sting and Luger become champs, and the trophy. This at least tells a story, and is going somewhere. And two guys who hated each other now become tag team partners. Jeez, it sounds like the Mega Powers. Tully Blanchard taking on Dusty in a bloody cover. A little bit of blood. You can't really see it that well. You got to look closely at it. But for this time period, we'll take anything we can get. Wrestling Fever. Nikita is taking on Flair. Butch Reed, now the Natural, comes to the WWF. And of course, if you want to come to the WWF, you can't come as the name you made for yourself. You got to come as the name and the gimmick that we give you. All right, you know. So I mean, it could have been worse. They could have gave him, you know, they gave him blonde hair, called him the Natural. You know, nothing like he would destroy other guys with. Brady Boone gets the cover. It looks like Billy Jack, very much so, but it's not. Taking on the masked superstar here in a different gimmick. UWF champion Dr. Death on the cover. Power. Misty Blue, the ladies world champion, gets a cover. She'd been on a lot of these covers. She must have knew somebody for the company of Action, Double Action, Power, and whatnot, because she would hit a lot of color pinups and a lot of covers for a female that wasn't in a major territory at the time. Here's a real throwback match and cover. Sheik taking on Sergeant Slaughter in July of 1988. It was Crusher Khrushchev, Barry Darso, now one of the Demolition, gets the cover for Superstar Wrestlers. Summertime, July 4th, to be exact, is the Crockett's birthday anniversary special of matches. Started in 1988 and continued on. This would be the last Crockett Bash. Sad to say, here is an official program to the Bash 88. Here is the event program. You could buy separate at the event because each stadium had something different going on as the Bash was on tour. This has got Dusty, Nikita, Sting, and Luger taking on the Four Horsemen, Flair, Barry Windham, Tully, and Arn. Road Warriors take on the Powers of Pain in a scaffold match, only to be pulled from the entire card. I'm sorry, the entire Bash show throughout the summer. This would have been the first, the July 13th show, and Powers of Pain said, fuck the scaffold match. We're going to the WWF, and pulled the plug and kind of walked out of the company. Soon to be, I forget who they were switched with. It may have been a couple different, but I thought it was Ivan, like a masked Russian. I mean, whoever the heels were going to be the guys that were getting thrown off of the scaffold. So you can't blame the Warlord and the Barbarian. The guys are both 300 pounds. You know, you're going to be falling off of a scaffold? Yeah, I don't think so. I certainly wouldn't do it either. That's a big gamble for a big dude. Look at Jimmy Cornette. I mean, guy broke both of his legs. You know, I mean, of course he wasn't an athlete either, but still, is it worth the risk? Luger gets a cover of the Lebanese issue, looking all jacked up. This is an older photo from him from the Florida territory when he was the Southern heavyweight champ. August of '88, Hogan now in the shadows. Savage, you know, the feud is going to be heated up. Hogan was 100% supportive. Of course, he had to get his face in there everywhere he could to keep himself in the limelight as well. Couldn't just let Savage have it by himself. He had to be right there in his corner, trying to get the fans, you know, to go with him more so than anything else, because he was a heel first. And then, you know, Hogan, of course, will get his belt back, and the whole drama continues. Here's Luger and Wyndham as tag team champions, the NWA. They took on the Horsemen, and good looking shot of both. And this is the signed issue from both Barry and Lex. Up top, Jerry Lawler here, becoming close to the feud with Kerry Von Erich, very soon to be for the title versus titles, and we're going to look at that as we move up in the months here. A Crockett Cup, and making a comeback on the cover, Magnum TA for the first time in a while, and they win the Crockett Cup. Is Luger and Sting, the same photo we've seen a few issues back with them with the trophy. Macho Man now gets a PWI cover. Like I said, Hogan right there over his shoulder, capturing some of the thunder for the new champ. And attitudes get hot and heavy, which turns into another feud with Hogan and Savage. Kurt Hennig in the far corner, AWA World Championship. Shot of him with the belt. Like I said, this is one of the few rare shots of him with that, and would be, I think, the last one. Soon, Jerry Lawler will take that title. Another shot of Luger, now becoming more and more popular as Luger through 88, 89, would pretty much dominate the WCW under the Turner ranks, and really made a good name for himself. Had a bunch of matches with Flair for the title coming up real soon in 89. Wrestling World here with Arn Anderson. Macho Man on the cover as we look back at Mania 4. His title changed there, covered in that. Hogan, Hulkamania. Is Hulkamania dead? Savage holds up Elizabeth holding the title there with his wife. Paul Roma on a rare cover of Mr. Roma taking on the Demolition of... at the beginning, he wore the elbow pad covering his tattoo so it would be less identifiable. Of course, any wrestling fan knew that was Crusher Khrushchev with the paint on. And good-looking shot of, at least they're wrestling still. We're still seeing a match on making his way to the WWF is the Dingbat Warrior coming up from Texas after losing the Texas title. Comes up as the Ultimate Warrior, and we all know the mayhem that he would bring up to the Northeast. Who would have thought you'd see him as the WWF champion and Sting as the NWA champion at a time where, not too far removed was Buddy Rogers and Lou Thesz, and it's just, wow, what a difference. Harley Race and, Ric Flair and, you had Backlund, and now you got, guys at makeup and, selling, foam rubber thumbs and shit. It's just really, again, with the Crockett Cup, Sting, and Luger. Of course, this is just my opinion. I mean, I'm not trying to knock anybody. These years pissed me off, and this is why I stopped watching it. Not to say it was anything, but my opinion only. That's just how I feel about it. A lot of people feel about it, most of the guys who watch this channel. But, it just sucked seeing such a big change. But what really hurt was the magazines changed. It's just the style of the magazines. It just, total, like, you go from something, like this, with Rivera, Bleeding Buckets, or the Sheik, getting, a spike in the head by John Tolis, to something, that's like, more like a comic book cover. It's just like, what the hell did you do? What happened to our magazines? Spinks and Tyson now still feeding the beast here for this big fight that would be an all-time record breaker. The analysts and analysis of Tyson and Spinks covered in Boxing 88. And KO time. Down falls Michael Spinks. Like I said, this was the supposedly the biggest fight of Tyson's career, and it was supposed to be, the real challenge for him, and he just totally destroyed Michael Spinks in exactly 91 seconds, 91-second massacre. This would all fall apart for Tyson right after this. Tyson would be divorced, and she would take him for $10 million. She would take him for the houses and totally destroy his life after she alienated him from his managers and his trainers, and everything went to total complete shit once she got involved with his life, and she cut the leash off of Tyson and made him run rampant. This is a guy that needed to be controlled. Because you look at his earlier life, he was headed for jail or prison or death for sure. And, now you're taking a kid who's been, in the custody of Customato since he was 12, and now he's in his early 20s. And here's the keys to life, tear it up. And, here's every girl, every drug, every dollar spent. And the guy went absolutely crazy, and down went his career, sad to say. Of course, Don King had a lot to do with that poisoning. But, still basking in the good times for another couple of months anyway, as Tyson here. He would go from fighting 6 times a year to getting married and disappearing for like 18 months, not training, not fighting. Is any wonder why he was defeated by Buster Douglas in the next year to come? It's pitiful turnabout for his life. Japan capitalizing. What a great shot. Tyson looking down here at Spinks, flat out on the mat. You know, Tyson's was furious because the fight was on hold. I guess pay-per-view you didn't know because they would just talk about it or whatever, and they could milk the time. But us as fans were like, what the fuck's going on? You know, it's been like 20 minutes. His manager made Tyson rewrap his hands because he didn't see it, and it just infuriated Tyson even more. I mean, he wanted to destroy, you know, he was bashing lockers, he was destroying chairs in the background, in the back locker room, and that really pissed him off. So that probably didn't help in the slaughter of having him knocked out in 91 seconds. But taking a look here now, Jerry the King Lawler captures the AWA World Heavyweight Championship, and about time that the King had got recognized for his talents and became world champion. It was a long time coming. Here at the Parade of Champions, flashback, we just seen the program and Kerry capturing the WCWA Heavyweight Championship, and soon to be, you know, going at it with each other, Lawler and Kerry. Also the Crockett Cup, and Macho captures the world title. So big issue, big things happening over the summer. Here is a much better look at the King with the AWA crown. Awesome picture of Jerry, much deserved of the championship. You know, even the kind of, you know, even when he was slighted and the companies kind of fell apart and the title was stripped in here and there, but you can't take it away from Jerry. And of course the hometown absolutely tearing it up and loving all the recognition coming to Memphis. Hacksaw Duggan with his 2x4, and you can also buy a 2x4 for $10 a piece for each one of the kids. You know, unreal. Gets the cover of The Wrestler in September. Predictions through 88 take the cover of Sports Review, and Dr. Death Steve Williams takes on Flair here for the merger of the UWF and NWA title, covered here in this issue here. Supercards 88, again talking about all the big cards from the summer and the spring. Does a recap on all that. Hogan now takes the cover with one of the only boxers to make it to a cover of a magazine, and Mike Tyson, you know, who would win? Give me a break, you know. Hogan went last. I've less than Spinks would, that's for sure. But yeah, one of the first boxers to appear on a cover of a wrestling magazine. Hogan would actually be the first wrestler to make it to a cover of a boxing magazine, with him and George Foreman some years later on after Foreman's return. I believe that was 92, I think, 93, somewhere around there. Yeah, kind of weird. The Sheepherders, before they would become the Bushwhackers, still bloodthirsty and still slaughtering people throughout Puerto Rico and the South here, taking on the Fabulous Ones, or what the hell's their name? The Fantastics. Great looking shot, man. Another barbed wire fence. I remember this match being on television. It was the first time I've ever seen a barbed wire match. You know, you've seen pictures in the magazines because there was like one or two that happened before this. They weren't televised, and this was like a fence cage type of barbed wire. Six-man tag. Jack Victory was involved with. Terry Taylor was with the Fantastics, and man, it was just such a cool thing to see at that time because it was never anything like that on TV. And we're like, yeah, this is all the more reason we just love the UWF. I mean, they're giving us shit that, you know, no one's ever done on television. Barbed wire, are you crazy? And that, I believe, was the only time. Never again would anything be like that on television. Savage gets the cover of All-Star Wrestling in this giant pinup poster magazine. This is all 10 pinups inside this collectible magazine. So it's not really a magazine, it's more of a poster magazine. Savage gets the full cover and Wrestling 88. And inside here is a good look, which should have been the cover. Jerry Lawler with the AWA World Championship. What a great looking bloody shot that is of the King. After he defeats Kurt Hennig, and that would have been a great cover. They really dropped the ball there, but no, we can't show any blood. The kids and the parents might get upset. And then there goes half of our money, which really shouldn't have had any effect whatsoever, because the kids in the 70s loved it. I don't see why the kids in the 80s wouldn't love it just as much. We've had it for decades of bloody covers, and then all of a sudden they just want to clean it up and change it. And it's just, another piece to that puzzle that fit in the big scope of, why the fans were turned off by the magazines and didn't appreciate them as much as the 70s issues. Ringsider with Sting and Flair, Ultimate Warrior on the cover of Wrestling Fever, Wrestling Power, and Kerry Von Erich flexing here, talking about Jerry the King Lawler and a possible match with those two, and there would be a big feud soon to come in the fall. Right around now, September, right? Yeah, it should be kicking off real shortly. There's a poster here with Curt Hennig as the AWA champ in this issue of Superstars. His last actual photo with him with the belts, jacked up Warlord rather, and the Barbarian here, man. You're enormous on the cover of Inside Wrestling for October. Fantastic's back on the cover. And Jake Roberts with the snake on Rick Rude. The Midnight Rockers in the AWA, soon to be losing their tag team championships and headed to the WWF. Sting on the cover of PWI. I believe this was his first PWI cover, October. Fantastics once again with the tag team championship belts. These are the Texas, World Class Association heavyweight tag team belts. Flair on the cover, the real world champion. It's also a good poster of Flair in this issue with the gold belt. Pull out poster. Sting gets the cover of Wrestling World again. Sting was on a lot of Wrestling World covers, especially in the next couple years. He'd be on a bunch of Wrestling World covers. Celebrity Wrestling got Savage on the cover. Of course, now Savage, the heavyweight champion, he's going to get all kinds of coverage on the covers. And also Curt Hennig, again, with his title belt. These magazines ran quarterly, so they're behind the times a little bit more than the other issues were. So you're getting, the matches have already taken place and titles have already changed, but they're still putting in photos of, that were older. Again, with the coverage of Mania 4 and Sting here with Savage. Wrestling Fury put out an old school cover. 2 wrestlers, no one else. Perfect. Barry Windham and hold on one second. Windham and Luger taking on Midnight Express there, sorry. Tyson now on the cover of Boxing 88. No doubt remains after destroying Spinks. Mike Tyson now the undisputed world heavyweight champion when we already all knew it. Wrestling program here for an NWA event, November 30th. Sting and Luger take on the Road Warriors. Dusty and Bam Bam Bigelow now in the WCW NWA takes on Flair and Windham. Nikita Koloff, Mike Rotundo for the TV title. Flair, I'm sorry, I keep saying Flair. Barry Windham and Dusty Rhodes, good looking cover. Must have been an accident. They put out a match with 2 wrestlers, perfect, November of 1988, only to dial it back a little bit with the wrestler for November of 88. Rock and Roll Express here. On the cover, first time in a while we've seen the Rock and Roll Express on the cover of a mag. They were super red hot popular all throughout Crockett and the Memphis territory. Inside here we got coverage of the Bash. Here's the Sheik, the real Sheik, his partner Dusty Rhodes at the Great American Bash, taking on Kevin Sullivan and Dick Murdoch. The Sheik's partner as Dusty Rhodes, and then of course in the Sheik fashion turns on him. And it's a 3-on-1 gang-up covered here. It's one of your first looks at the Sheik in the 80s. You didn't see much of him at all in the magazines all but disappeared. Even though he was still hitting the independent circuits and still wrestling, he wasn't really covered in the magazines hardly anymore at all. And it wouldn't be until like 91 when he went back to the FMW, when that formed, and went back to Japan, and he started to get his name back up again with Sabu. There's a shot with Hogan on the cover of PWI. Savage on the cover of Wrestling World, November of '88. Bloodied up Dusty Rhodes taking on Mike Rotundo from coverage at the Bash. And here's your sexiest wrestlers on the cover of Wrestling Superstars as they do their gimmick each quarter. The muscle men, the sexiest men, the greatest champions, the fantasy matches and so forth. They were known for that in Wrestling Superstars. Fantastics and the Rock and Roll Express hit the cover. Kerry Von Erich here goes for it. Pumping Iron with Kerry. Good looking shots of Kerry jacked up in weight training in there in color. Sting gets the cover of Wrestling Superstar Wrestlers, and Jerry Lawler coverage of him winning the AWA belt is in that issue. Mike Tyson versus all the greatest heavyweights. I hate these kind of fantasy talks because there's no such thing as the greatest wrestler or boxer or whoever, football player from yesterday to today. I mean, the training regimens are different, the diets are different, the rules were different, steroids and drugs are different. You can't compare yesterday's guys to today's. It's just who's the greatest champion as of right now, and that's all you can go by. You really can't have a fair comparison when they do shit like that. But it likes to drum up controversy and people talk, so I guess that sells the magazines, but it's just, it's kind of a stupid argument. Roddy Piper gets the first time on the cover in a couple of years here. Piper, Ultimate Warrior, wins the Intercontinental title from the Honky Tonk Man, and Flair and Luger kick off their 11-month feud or so. December, final month of final issues here for the year, and big news was the Von Erich and Lawler feud in some title versus titles, AWA versus WCCW, WCWA, World Class, whatever you want to call it. They all had a merger with Memphis, AWA and Texas, and like I said, a short-lived promotion. Just look, you have three heads and three people trying to make something work when they all have different directions in mind. And example of that was Pro Wrestling USA with Crockett and Verne together, and it just didn't work out. Cooler heads, decided to split. You want to ruin something that could be possibly good, make yourself some money, partner up with Verne, I guess, because he seems to be the one common denominator for a lot of bad choices in wrestling, with championship decisions, and doing the dusty finishes on people constantly, and people got sick of it. There was no shortage of that between Lawler and Kerry. So they're about to kick off a set of feuds in September. Jerry Lawler makes his way to the Texas territory and answering Kerry Von Erich's challenge as an open challenge for the world champion. And Jerry is the first to come knocking on the door for the first time in Dallas Sportatorium history. And they have a title versus title match, world title, and you'll see, World Class versus AWA for the title on January 9th. The lineup sheet is inside, but you really don't need to see it. Lawler comes to town and kicks off what would be a series-long, maybe 4-month feud with Kerry. Their second matchup would take place a couple of weeks later on the 23rd for the rematch. Lawler now again challenging Kerry for the belt, and this is also at the Sportatorium. And like I said, they would kick off a series of matches, and they would go on for the next several months. Here is a program now for the 5th annual Cotton Bowl, title versus title. Once again, you see the two belts here. Which one's going to come out as champion? Of course, that there was a disqualification. There was whatever made up ending they had for the first two. Kerry wins the world title here at the Cotton Bowl. Here's a rare pic of him out of a Japanese magazine with both titles and him bloodied up. You can see the empty arena back here. There was like nobody there. There was more people on the other side, of course. I know you're not going to fill up Dallas Stadium, with that many people. But if by and large, it was, not a very successful event. And then Kerry winning it, and then shortly after, having the title pulled away from him, they would set up for the big match to come place in the Super Clash 3 towards the middle of December. Before that, Kerry takes a tour through Japan, and December 9th defends the title against IWGP Heavyweight Champion Dragon Fujinami. And Fujinami takes the title from Kerry Von Erich, winning the world-class title. He's also the champion of Portland. Portland's still alive and going, even though the NWA had, long disbanded and no longer affiliated with the smaller territories. Portland kept its company going and became its own world title, the PNW, the Portland the Heavyweight Championship world title. The Grappler held it for a while. A few different guys held it. And Fujinami, he's in this magazine with all three belts, but he's just not on the cover with this one. But here he is with the cover after defeating Kerry. Of course, Kerry had to get the title back because just 5 days later, they would be having a match with Jerry Lawler again at Super Clash 3 on December 13th. And this is a pretty rare program. Not many of them were out there. The attendance for this was dreadful. It was, the last dying days of the AWA. I know it would linger on for another year or better, but the writing was on the wall. This was like the best that they would be, and at this point down was just a ski slope downward. It's, like I said, not many people have seen the inside of it. It's very, nothing to really write home about. I can just show you some pages inside. Just some black and whites, glossy paper, but the Glow Girls were there teaming up with, for those who remember, the ridiculous Glow wrestling. It's kind of like, looking at that in '88 is like almost the same as watching the WWF now. It's just the same corny, ridiculous skit shit. It's quite sad. Tanaka and tag team champions, Medusa, the ladies heavyweight champion, she'd be taking on Wendy Rector, who came to the company. I think there's a lineup sheet in here somewhere. Rock and Roll Express were on the card. Of course, Groovy Greg Gagne, who was the TV champion, defeating Ronnie Garvin. Give me a break. AWA champion and WCCW heavyweight champion battle for the final time. Who will become the champion? Very guilty pleasure of mine, and I like the Rock and Roll RPMs, especially as heels. I know, you can say what you want about them being rip-offs and this and that. And yeah, who wasn't a rip-off of somebody at that point? But, I was a big fan of Mike Davis, thought he was great, and I like the RPMs as heels for sure. Again, some Texas title, young Jeff Jarrett there. No, that's not the lineup sheet. Oh, it's on the back page. Lineup sheet here with the rest of the matches. Decent matches. Wahoo McDaniel taking on Manny. I know they're two older guys, but they put on a great bloody match. And then, of course, the main event, title versus title. And Jerry the King would walk out the double-crowned heavyweight champion and carry both titles. Kerry wouldn't get the title back. Then of course some political shit happens, and then he's stripped to this title, he's stripped to that title, and then, he unifies the championship, makes one big belt in Memphis, and is considered, the one and only unified world champion. And nice looking belt that he got. It was very close to looking like the WCW belt that was made when Luger took over as champ. Jerry would run with that for a few years. Let's see who else would take that. Butch Reed would take it. I'm trying to think of the guys that I think Junkyard Dog, I think, even had it. Maybe I don't remember. There was so many different guys that grabbed the belt, and Lawler put it on a lot of younger guys too, which was cool because they gave them a shot at getting some popularity before they went to the WWF and became even bigger names. You guys know who they are. The guy who played Papa Shango, we won. The Undertaker would be another one. I'm trying to think of his name there. But guys like that. But that was inside the Super Clash, and like I said, that was the kind of much the pinnacle of the AWA, and then it all goes downhill. Just looking at the RPMs once again, they're never mentioned anywhere. They never get talked about. They're never on a cover of a magazine. But here they are as the Puerto Rico Tag Team Champions. Good looking shot of them with the belts, and what do you call it? I got Tommy Lane's autograph here. Of course, Mike Davis died of a heart attack, unsurprisingly so. But it's a shame. I thought they were a decent crew. They always did, decent matches throughout Memphis and the Southern Territories. I remember us talking to you about like this issue here, the digest. It became a real small, like I said, comic book size here. These were great. I mean, these covered everywhere. It just wasn't like the NWA anymore. Now it's called Pro Wrestling Digest, no longer, NWA Pro Wrestling Digest, and it covered every territory. It's small, it's to the point. There wasn't a lot of, pictures or anything, but it's just, it would talk to you about everything that's been going on in every territory, and it gave you the scoop short and sweet and fast. So as little as it is, it really packed a punch with giving you the material and delivering for these. It didn't last much longer than this. This has got the coverage from Super Clash, how Kerry got robbed. This is a photo from the Cotton Bowl. I showed you a color picture of that a second ago. But if you see them and they're cheap enough, which I don't know anything about them, but they're definitely good. And if I see them, I always grab them if they're within price range. Warriors in December of '88 Sports Review. The Four Horsemen, great looking cover of all four guys with the world titles around their waist. Flair gets the main cover here with the big gold for the first time in a while. We've seen Flair with the gold by himself. Bam Bam Bigelow again with Andre on the cover of Wrestling World. We've seen that a few issues before, and it's just back again with a repopped picture. Dusty on the cover, bloodied up towards the end of his Crockett run here in '88. And this has also got the coverage of Adonis and also Bruiser Brody's death. And like I said, they both died around the same time, and both their articles are covered in there pretty good. If January's issue, you'd find that information, I think, in the Weston issues, but Main Event kind of put it out first. Wrestling Power just got a mixture of nothing going on. Ivan Koloff, like I said, he had one more or two more covers, and here's one last one of him for 1988. And taking on Barry Windham here, and a good looking shot of Wrestling Exclusive. Sting taking on Flair on the cover of Gold Belt. A very skinny and returning Nikita Koloff with hardly any body left and a flat top. Does not look good. Once a bald guy is known as a bald guy and he grows hair, you just never look at him the same. You're like, what the hell? Doesn't look right. Just, once you're bald and we see you like that, that's who you are. And trying to change it, it doesn't work. And it certainly didn't work for Nikita Koloff. Him and Luger and Dusty on the cover of Superstars. Major League Wrestling program for December, and this is a Bunkhouse Stampede, 88, December 29th, and it's for the Bunkhouse titles. And this would soon be ending also, this style of magazine from the Wrestling News, would also be changing and actually finishing completely by the early 90s. Boxing Territory, last issue from Boxing 88. Sugar Ray Leonard's thinking about coming out of retirement, challenging light heavyweight champion Donnie Lalonde, and there's no way Sugar Ray can come back and take the title, can he? I mean, the guy's done it time and time again, but I mean, his ticket's been punched. There's no way he can beat the younger, faster, stronger Donnie Lalonde. credit goes to Teddy Atlas for getting Donnie this far in his career before Donnie, fucked him over and screwed him out of some political crap. But Donnie, a lot of credit goes to Teddy Atlas for preparing this dude and making him the champion that he became, for as short-lived as it was. Sugar Ray's like, I can take him. I know I can. Here's a program to that match, November 7th, 1988, and signed by Donnie Lalonde. And of course, like only Sugar Ray can do, come out of retirement and collect championship belts. And here's Sugar Ray on the cover of a rare magazine from South Africa called Boxing World. And this is signed by Sugar Ray on the cover with his last World WBC title that he would gather. And that closes out the year of 1988. Thanks for the look back. And like I said, guys, I got a couple more hurdles to go through with my pop. And, I will be back again shortly with some more videos. And it was good for me to get my mind off of shit. It felt good to take a break from life that's surrounding me and get lost up into some wrestling and talk to you guys for an hour. All right, man. We'll see you guys on the next.